Voyage.
The number one selling product of its kind with over 20 years of research and innovation. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
This message comes from Greenlight. Ready to start talking to your kids about financial literacy? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app that teaches kids and teens how to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest with your guardrails in place. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Join millions of parents and kids building healthy financial habits together on Greenlight. Get started risk-free at greenlight.com/Spotify.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
The funerals for Dan and Lynn would, in many ways, echo the differences between them.
The funeral for him was at a Mormon church. I think that it was just a few days after, is my memory. It was pretty close, and it was a strange experience to go to that, because it was just about how in love he was with Lynn and what a great couple they were. It was never mentioned what happened. It was very surreal and just like, what? And then her funeral, I thought, I didn't even go to her funeral. Like, was I busy? What happened? It was like a month later or something. It was a couple of weeks later. And now this morning I'm thinking, oh yeah, I think I did go. So my memory on the funerals are really hazy. And hers was obviously different, just from the records that I looked up. You know, they talked about, they were right out about, she was murdered by her husband. It looked like there was a service for her in Utah. And of course there was a service for him in Utah, right? But it looked like there was one out at this Catholic church out south. And that's where I realized, oh yeah, I think I did go to that. But yeah, these two things were very different.
Part of this, according to Jackie, may come from a Mormon tendency towards positivity.
Yeah, there's that happy, joy thing going on. It's a cultural thing, it's a cultural thing, but disappointing to witness it, in looking back at that and seeing that and going, oh, that's really warped, that for me, even as, a person of the faith, just going, that's not right. I love that he loved Lynn, and that, she was really important to him. And, my husband and I were talking about this practice that they have of, what's it called? Speaker for the Dead, where in those, the Speaker for the Dead tells all the good and bad about the person, and they needed a speaker for the dead at Dan's funeral to tell the truth.
It's decided that Lynn's sister, another friend of ours, Becky Scheinberg, and myself, the three of us go to the house to help clear it out, to get her possessions out of there or whatever. We fly to Utah. We spend a weekend there. We stay at a hotel. we tried to find a liquor store, and apparently there aren't any. So when we got together, we asked a few people in the supermarket, where's the liquor store? They were like, well, I have no idea, so we were asking the wrong people. Anyway, we wound up meeting for dinner, her two coworkers, the man and the woman who worked with her. We talked quite a bit there, and then we spent the rest of the time just making donations and taking, what we thought was worth salvaging and things like that, going through her house. But what we did find, which was astonishing to us, was that her life had really been picked over. She was a real clothes horse. She did, vintage clothing and bought a lot of things like that from years back, really for decades. She was doing that before it became sort of a thing for everyone to do. And her closet was filled with, cushioned hangers and things in proper storage bags and everything. She really was into her clothing and had beautiful accessories. Everything was real leather. She had these fabulous handbags before it was really popular to have very fabulous, expensive handbags. And all the handbags were gone. There wasn't one left. And in their place were these cheap little kind of plastic sort of pleather bags that you might find at a little Goodwill place. They were put in their place as though to look like she had these things, but the real things were taken. And the worst part of it was that there was a library in the house, a small section of the library, and all of Lynn's life was removed because she kept journals from the time I knew her, since she was 10 and 11 and 12 years old, and then in high school with her Jack book. I mean she had her Jack book, the boy she loved, and how she wrote about him on a daily basis. That was called her Jack book. I mean, all her life she journaled. She used to recommend that I do it if I had problems, that she did it all the time. It kept her. She had a beautiful penmanship, so she loved the whole task of writing. Always used fountain pens because she loved writing. All of those were gone. I think all of them were gone because they always spoke the truth about her life, which was very different from the Mormon situation she was in. So whether they disappeared because they talked too much about how bad it was with Dan, or what her love life was like, which I'm sure that was all in there, or whether just they were basically whitewashing her. Turning her into, because in its place was the Mormon Bibles and books about Mormonism. There's no evidence of any blood anywhere. It's all been cut away. All the bullet holes, all the blood is just cut right out of the walls. There's no longer any bedding. I know it supposedly was soaked, just soaked with her blood everywhere. So big squares of carpet cut away and things like that. I took, it's funny, a pair of leggings she always wore. For some reason that reminded me of her. It's still, when I see him, I think of that. I gave her a necklace. That was a, good necklace that I did give her, and I kept that, but I didn't need, I didn't feel as though I needed those things to love her and know her the way I did. I wear the necklace. Yeah, I do have the necklace. Yeah. So this Mormon book was apparently part of the Mormon community. When she died, they must have had some kind of a ceremony for her, like a funeral for her. And this book is about, I don't know, maybe 30 pages deep, I think, with at least 30 small paragraphs written by everyone who knew her, who meant something to her. And some of them really tell and describe her well. Some woman who says she would express things in a way that you didn't know if she was serious or not. Now, I think she must have stood out like a sore thumb in Mormon country of this little town. It almost like I picture like somebody in like witness protection, almost being in this little town. A realtor friend said she got in front of a microphone and said, real estate market's in the toilet. And another woman described how funny she was and just kind of always willing to share her own stories, and very sensitive, very good, a good salesperson, knew everyone's name, coming into a new town, trying very hard to, to make friends, to be social. That was really important to her. So the book is kind of lovely, and it does give some insight, especially into how involved she became in the church. I mean, she's teaching children, she's going to homes to pray and work with people. I mean, they talk about her baptism, and there's pictures of her being, in white, in that kiddie pool that they used to baptize, that kind of thing. Strange book.
News reports on the murder-suicide describe the couple as never having a known incident of domestic disturbance before the crime. Another news article speculated that the motive was pain medication, but noted that while most neighbors said they never saw any violence in their relationship, police, quote, say others have told them differently. Emails between Marilyn and her friends expressed disbelief at what had transpired and anger. One email shared photos of Lynn, smiling, taken on August 23rd, less than 2 months before her murder, and noted how vibrant and alive she was.
There was a great deal of disbelief about it, I have to say. And there's a feeling like, how could I be so close to somebody murdered? Just sort of trying to digest the impact that has, that your best friend has been murdered by her husband, and try to wrap around that or make sense of it, or to be able to tell someone about it. How's Lynn? Oh, she died. Or how did she die? She was murdered. What? There was a lot of that.
Reactions to Dan and Lynn's deaths run the gamut. I was able to review the Book of Memories, written comments from people within Lynn and Dan's Mormon community in Utah that Marilyn referenced. The book is remarkable in how it echoes Jackie Bell's reaction to Dan's Utah funeral. The tone is supportive, but very positive. Mostly, it focuses on how much everyone loved Lynn and how strong her religious faith was, specifically as a Mormon convert. It's clear that Lynn even taught a Sunday school class to kids. Seemingly no one overtly addresses the elephant in the room, that Dan had murdered Lynn. Instead, the remembrances keep the focus on the positives. Their Mormon faith, their friendships within the community, Dan's love for his family, and the good times they had shared. What references there are to the sin quickly are balanced with talk of forgiveness in religious terms. One paragraph was notable. It mentioned Dan's friendship with a home teacher from the church, and how they once went to lunch and Dan spoke of his childhood and the challenges he'd faced in life, and cried. It was another rare window into a different side of Dan. One person speculated that Lynn would have already forgiven Dan. Lynn had multiple funeral services. There was a note I found about a service in Utah at St. John the Baptist Catholic Church, interestingly enough. There was another service at Our Lady Queen of Heaven Catholic Cemetery in North Lauderdale, Florida. Lynn's urn was placed in her mother's crypt.
We all went to Florida, which is where she was buried because her father lived in Florida. It's a memorial for her, so it's at, she's going to be interned in an urn with her mother in a wall, in a, mausoleum, or as the Italians like to say, a mausoleum. And she's going to be in the wall there, and everybody kind of friends sang, friends talked. The father was there. Some of her relatives were there. A small gathering at a restaurant afterwards. The typical memorial type of thing. I don't think they ever put her name, her last name, her married name up there. They put her name, like the family name. And, this is, again, a warped, funny story, but they had this awkward scene after we've talked, and we're talking at this little sort of chapel in the cemetery where this mausoleum is. And a very handsome black man who works there has her on like a lift that slowly goes all the way up, and goes to this like little window up there.
If you recall, Lynn's friends had all mentioned a handsome black man, Adolphus, she had previously dated, that they all liked.
And as I say, she dated this black man who was probably the best guy for her. I mean, he was a wonderful guy. And when he goes up there, a couple of our friends, we lean in and say, Lynn would love this, that the last man to have his hands on her was a good-looking black guy. So that was...
It was so funny because we were all sitting around, and it was a ceremonial thing. It was event. It was like in a chapel. It was in the chapel, but it was with the funeral place. What's it called, right? And where all the urns are. Yeah, everything. It's mausoleum. Yeah. Anyway, so we were there, and the moms, they had just put the mom's urn up there. In this resort. Yeah, in like a drawer thing. And then, it was this gorgeous black guy carrying her up. And gently, I mean, it was like
Lynn's ashes.
It was so poetic almost. It was like, oh my gosh. We thought if she was here, she would have a great laugh out of this, but exactly how she would have liked to go. In the black guy's house.
We love that. We all love that because she did. She had a propensity.
There was also a service at Marina Fellowship Church in Los Angeles.
I know that they had something, a memorial for her that my friend Becky and Cheryl Peltz went to, and they were shocked. The place was packed with people, like a couple of hundred people, and people sobbing, and most of them who we knew her most of our life didn't even know who these people were. They said there was a woman there they've never even seen or heard her mention before, who was just wailing, talking about how she couldn't live without her. Things like that. So she had a lot of people in the LA situation. Kind of one of those mega churches, like a kind of a hip place. They play guitar behind glass and all. It was that kind of a place.
But the ceremony was bizarre. Cheryl and Rick and Hank and I went, and because we wanted to just do anything that had to do with Lynn to, hang on to, and it was all these people telling stories about Lynn that were like, huh?
How do they know her?
How the heck do these people who are in LA? So she had been involved in this little kind of an all-denominational church. Yeah. And it was a lot of music, and people were like sobbing over the top. Cheryl and Rick and Hank and I were, again, I don't know what happens with those two when they got together. We're like, this woman in front of us was like howling and wailing and making it over the top. And we're like, come on. I mean, we're sad too, but settle down.
Marilyn gave a eulogy for Lynn at the Florida service. She kept the text and provided it to me. She talked about not knowing how she'd fill such a hole in her life. She talked about how quirky and funny Lynn was, her little odd habits, like that she blew her nose loudly like a man since she was 10 years old. She was clumsy. Marilyn described her falls and stumbles as legendary, falling down the stairs at nightclubs and parties in wedges and platform shoes. But she also said Lynn was stylish, perceptive, kind, and most of all, loved unconditionally.
There was also, the personal side for me was how much I missed her, and she left a great big hole in my life in terms of a best friend, being no longer there is a gaping hole, and so much of our humor and what we shared in our humor. We had words that we'd say a word, it'd crack us up, and to lose the partner of that was really devastating. We used to every now and then make fun of a soap opera where the woman said, "Where's your husband?" and she'd say, "Tokyo," and somehow we would say Tokyo, and that would crack us up. If we heard Tokyo, we'd have to look at each other and say Tokyo. Stupid things like this, She was a character. She was really a very funny person. I always was laughing with her, and that's something I miss a great deal. So sometimes people say, "Gee, Marilyn, you're pretty funny. Who makes you laugh?" She made me laugh, and really nobody nobody really makes me laugh like she did. So I miss her a great deal.
Lynn's death changed Marilyn's life in more ways than one.
What happened to me after her death was sort of I think up until that time, my feeling about my marriage, and a good deal of it, I think this is an honest feeling that a lot of people would have. It certainly was mine. Is that when you're in something, okay, I've committed to something. I have children now. It's challenging. You always hear marriage has its ups and downs. There's always issues. But I'm an extremely loyal person, and I think I set out to really stick by him and stay in the marriage for the sake of the marriage. Okay. But as it turned out, I mean, slowly, when somebody is alcoholic and a very high functioning alcoholic, what can happen is you don't see the alcoholism so much. You just feel the separation, the detachment of it. So, not really having anything in sync with him any longer. A lot of that, a lot of sadness, a lot of loneliness in my marriage. That feeling of being lonely in your marriage is a horrible one. And, but I will say that after she died, it had a huge impact on me because I felt as though I saw someone's beginning, middle, and end. And as succinct as that was, I just realized that life is short and this is no way to live. And I don't have to, this shouldn't be a jail sentence for either one of us. I mean, for my husband as well. I mean, at the same time, I'm, certainly sensing that he's quite miserable and unhappy and unsatisfied. So we decided after an argument to divorce, but I think I really knew I wanted to be divorced once she died. It was clear to me that this was not how I was going to live my life out.
Marilyn's ex-husband, Mark, has since gotten sober, as we discussed in a previous episode, and they are on good terms today.
Something said to me, this isn't working. And we both looked at each other and said, yeah, you're right. And we bowed out as gracefully as we could.
Seeing how Mark and Marilyn were able to part ways in a respectful and civil manner, to me, really contrasted the sad and senseless nature of the ending of Lynn and Dan's relationship. But maybe part of the reason Lynn stayed as long as she did, unfortunately, was fear. As I was going through all the documents I could get access to relating to this crime, I found something in one of the police reports which seemingly contradicted what Marilyn had told me. In the deputy report, Detective Olson wrote, quote, Marilyn said that in the past that Dan said he would kill Lynn if she left him. Lynn said that Dan was drunk when he made the threats. There was also an email Marilyn shared with me that she sent on October 6th of 2007 at 11 a.m., the day after the bodies were discovered, and it referenced this as well. Quote, he had said once in a drunken rage that he would kill her if she tried to leave. She dismissed this as drunken babble, but it stayed in the back of her mind. Lynn had told her. I discussed this with Marilyn. You'll hear our conversation on the next and final episode of My Best Friend's Killer. My Best Friend's Killer is a production of Voyage Media. The series is produced by Nat Mundell, Robert Midas, Dan Benamore, and Caitlin Brown. Executive produced by Marilyn Hotz. Reported, written, and lead produced by Dan Benamore. Edited, sound designed, and mixed by Nick Misiti. Original music by Derlis Gonzalez. If you're enjoying the show, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you're listening, and subscribe now for future episodes.